Xbox Series X is out there in the wild, getting hands-on impressions, and we have to talk about that. All that and more coming up. What is going on, guys? I'm Donkey over at My Xbox and Me, where we give you the rundown on everything that is Xbox related. So if you're interested in that, as well as what goes on in the Xbox ecosystem, be sure to subscribe. That way you can stay informed each and every week. Now, like I said, diving right into this, the Xbox Series X is out there, finally being played, and I am not important enough to get one. Let's be honest here. So instead, we rely on some of our favorite journalists as well as influencers to get the rundown. So be sure to check out the links I put down in the description below. That way you can get the full story as well as you can support their content. So diving right in. Now, of course, with any new Xbox console, you always expect the upfront improvements, such as higher frame rate, higher resolution, and faster load times. But what seems to be one of the most impressive aspects coming out of a lot of these impressions is the way the Xbox Series X is actually handling the current Xbox One X titles. As tested by Kevin Kenson, Final Fantasy 15 is a great example of this due to its light mode setting, in which Final Fantasy removes the frame cap rate at the expense of resolution. The standard 30 frame rate actually doubles, achieving some buttery smooth gameplay. Now, what's important to remember here is that this doesn't only apply to frame rate caps. Other Xbox One titles use dynamic resolution, in which the game would constantly shift between higher and lower resolution qualities in order to achieve a more stable frame rate. Due to the power of the Xbox Series X, that shift in resolution is both stable as well as outputted at a higher quality. Now, the crazy thing is, these aren't games that carry the enhanced for Series X stickers. These are the average run-of-the-mill Xbox One X games. And yet these games are still seeing a massive performance boost. Now, of course, there are games that were both capped in resolution as well as frame rate. Now, those games won't see a drastic gameplay experience boost other than the standard loading time improvement. However, they do receive what's called auto HDR. Pretty much those games are getting HDR applied to them due to the Series X. Now, another major talking point of these new next-gen systems is, of course, that NVMe 4.0 SSD drive. Yes, I know I don't have to say drive after that, it's like ATM machine, but we all still say it, come on now. Now it is finally out in the open that internal SSD, the 1TB SSD drive, has a usable space of 802 gigs. So pretty much 200 of that is allotted to file management as well as operating system, while the external drive has a usable space of 920, with 80 being allotted to file management, etc. However, from the impressions so far, the load times seem to be blowing away all expectations, which is extremely exciting. Just take a look at some of these load times as displayed by GameSpot. One thing I really want to talk about is the Seagate expansion memory slot that is supposed to take full advantage of the velocity architecture that is built into the Xbox Series X. Now, of course, this slot plugs right into the back of the Xbox Series X. It is proprietary and it will cost about $220. However, so far the impressions are showing that the speeds that are coming off this thing really does rival the internal drive of the Xbox Series X. Now, there's a full breakdown that Jeffrey Grubb did over on his. Once again, link is down in the description below, but just looking at this is impressive hardware. Now, we do know, because this is proprietary hardware, that the price of this device isn't really going to vary too much. One thing that the PlayStation 5 has going for it is that it can use any NVMe 4.0 SSD drive as an external drive, which allows for competition, varying prices. However, it does share a market with the PC user base, which once again drives up prices. Overall, they should be comparable with price, but it does have the advantage of being able to use any type of external, while Series X will always have to use this in order to take advantage of the Velocity hardware. Now, of course, that's not to say that you can't use another SSD or a hard drive altogether. You really can, and Jeffrey Grubb did a great job of displaying what the times would look like, with the hard drive showing that it can take up to 3 times as long. But either way, that's still going to be faster than downloading, deleting your games. So maybe that's worth it as well. Now, of course, I'd love to go into detail with the controllers, but I can only give you the impressions based off of what they were saying. I have not held the controller, so I don't know what the controller feels like. However, from the impressions, it does look like Xbox went with the if it isn't broke, don't fix it model, kind of keeping with that same strategy of the old Xbox One X controllers, really just changing the texturing on the bumper pads and the share button. But once again, I haven't held it, so I can't speak to it at all. I can only go off of what others are saying. And lastly, it's supposed to be a quiet beast. Now, the Xbox One X isn't really known for being loud, PlayStation, but like with any console, once it started being pushed to its limits, it did start to make some noise. However, the Xbox Series X is supposed to be extremely quiet, with some impressionists saying that they never heard it at all, and others saying that only when they were paying attention to it, they could hear it, but they could never hear it over their TV or any other thing that they were utilizing inside the household. That's pretty awesome. Now, another feature that was really spoken to was the quick resume. Now, that seems to be the highlight between all the impressionists, mainly because right now with the Xbox Series X and the Game Pass and all that good stuff that's going on with the Xbox ecosystem, multiple games are gonna be played at all times. I mean, you may be playing one game and need to jump into another game, and having those short load times is really gonna speak a lot to the player. All the impressions so far were really highlighting that short change time, with one of them showing that they had up to 10 games going at once and just kind of bouncing between each one. They did, however, point out that this was between games with the Xbox 360, as well as the One X. So we're not really too sure how many games that you'll be able to flip between when you're talking about powerhouses of the Series X. So that remains to be seen. Now, the last part, even though it wasn't disclosed as much, mainly because a lot of these impressionists were limited to what they were allowed to speak to, is the UI. The snappiness, the responsiveness of the UI seems to be a lot better than before. Now, one aspect that we care about that we don't even realize is we want to be able to jump in and out of menus. That quick movement between menus, that quick response overall is going to just improve the gameplay experience for everyone altogether. So far from what we've been seeing, it looks like this thing really is going to be a beast, and I can't wait to get my hands on it myself. Now, this is exciting stuff. We're about 2 months out, and we're about to get our hands on this beast of a system. I can't wait to get my hands on it myself. That way I can just play with the menus, play with the games, just see what this thing really does have to offer. Push it to its limits. I can't wait to experience that full 4K on a beautiful TV and just enjoy these games. Now, I really did just want this to be a quick video, just recapping all the impressions so far, because this is great stuff. This is exciting stuff. And hopefully we have more to talk about in the upcoming weeks. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. What are you most excited about for the Xbox Series X? What aspect in this video stood out to you as, wow, I can't wait to experience that? So until next time, be beautiful. That's a terrible sign off. I'm not using that. I'll keep it in this time, but I'm not using that. Ugh.